Would you spend $2 billion on a car project that would not even meet your expectations? Well, in 1989, Ford did exactly that. The car in question was the Ford Thunderbird, and its flagship version was the Super Coupe. On paper, the Thunderbird looked like a masterclass of modern engineering. It had an iron block, 3.8-litre V6 engine, equipped with a Roots-type Eaton supercharger. The package generated 210 horsepower and a massive 315 pound-feet of torque. It won major automotive industry awards and comfortably outperformed contemporary sports cars on the highway. Yet, behind the glass walls of Ford headquarters, corporate executives were furious. The project had bled cash. The vehicle was £250 heavier than planned and cost an extra $900 per unit to build. Top leadership openly humiliated the engineering team in corporate meetings for these massive overruns. The flagship power plant of this multi-billion-dollar platform was not a high-tech double-overhead cam V8 or a sophisticated imported engine. It was a heavily modified version of a basic troubled pushrod V6. So why did Ford end up burning billions on it? This is the story of the 1989 Ford Thunderbird. In the mid-1980s, Ford management watched foreign premium brands capture a highly lucrative segment of the American market. European touring cars, specifically from BMW, were winning over buyers who wanted sophisticated engineering rather than traditional American land yachts. In response, Ford approved the MN12 program. This was a $2 billion development fund designed to completely reinvent the Thunderbird and the Mercury Cougar as legitimate contenders against European luxury coupes. The mandate given to the engineering team was brutal. Management demanded a vehicle with fully independent multi-link rear suspension, a feature virtually unheard of in high-volume American rear-wheel drive cars at the time. They also demanded advanced aerodynamics to slice through the air, which required a very low, slung hood line. Finally, they wanted a significant reduction in total vehicle weight to improve efficiency. The crisis began when the chassis team and the engine team met. Ford was working on a new family of modular V8 engines, but the early designs were tall and wide. When engineers tried to package these overhead cam V8 engines into the sleek MN12 prototype, they hit a literal wall. Engineers discovered that neither the existing 5.0-litre Windsor V8 nor the early modular V8 designs under development could clear the low-slung aerodynamic hoodline. The V8 options simply could not fit under the low hood profile without raising the entire front profile of the car. Doing that would destroy the vehicle's targeted styling and aerodynamic drag coefficients. Ford was trapped. They had committed billions to a platform designed for a premium engine, but their premier performance engine was physically too large to occupy the space. The development team needed a solution immediately, but their options were heavily restricted. Corporate pride and strict import trade agreements prevented Ford from simply sourcing a high-tech, overhead cam motor from an international partner. They had to use what was already on the corporate shelf. The only engine small enough to clear the low hood line while keeping the rear-wheel drive layout was the Essex 3.8-litre V6. The Essex V6 was never intended for a world-class performance car. It was a basic cast-iron pushrod engine used in family sedans and light trucks. In its standard form, it was sluggish, prone to severe head gasket failures, and suffered from inherent secondary vibrations that made it unrefined at high RPMs. Forcing this engine to match the performance output of a premium European luxury car required an absurd amount of expensive re-engineering. To extract V8 levels of power from a low-deck V6, Ford turned to forced induction. They integrated a Roots-type supercharger from Eaton, which crammed air into the cylinders to boost horsepower. This decision triggered a cascade of engineering headaches. The immense pressure from the supercharger meant the basic Essex block would crack under heavy load. Engineers had to redesign the entire engine block casting, develop unique high-strength cylinder heads, and route a complex intercooler system through the already crowded engine bay. While the engine team fought to keep the V6 from tearing itself apart, the chassis team completed the independent rear suspension. The advanced multi-link setup gave the car excellent road-holding capability, but the heavy rear differential, subframe, and reinforced components caused the total weight of the car to balloon far past the original corporate limits. When the Thunderbird Super Coupe finally rolled onto assembly lines, it was a mechanical anomaly. The engine was built with hypoeutectic alloy pistons, a fully counter-rotating balance shaft to smooth out the inherent V6 vibrations, and a highly advanced electronic engine control system to manage the supercharger boost. The car also required adjustable electronic shock absorbers, four-wheel anti-lock disc brakes, and wide 16-inch cast alloy wheels. These premium components drove production costs completely out of control. The Super Coupe required a unique, labour-intensive assembly process. Ford found itself building a vehicle that required premium-tier manufacturing costs, but had to be sold at a mainstream price point to compete with domestic rivals. The car was undeniably fast and could cruise the highway with effortless low-end torque, but from a business perspective, the vehicle was far less profitable than projected. Ford executive leadership publicly blasted the program managers for failing to control the budget. The corporate consensus was clear. The engineering team had let their enthusiasm override financial sanity, spending millions to fix a packaging mistake caused by a low hood line. The narrative of rogue engineers wasting corporate cash to save a poorly planned design misses the actual reality of the automotive market in the mid-1980s. The massive financial investment into this high-output V6 was a calculated corporate hedge against federal intervention. During the development of the MN12 platform, internal industry projections predicted that corporate average fuel economy, known as CAFE, regulations were about to tighten drastically. The federal government was indicating that fleet-wide fuel economy standards would climb to levels that would make traditional, large displacement V8 engines completely illegal in passenger cars by the early 1990s. Ford believed they were facing an existential threat to their performance lineup. If the V8 was outlawed, Ford would lose the Mustang, the Thunderbird, and every high-profit vehicle that relied on V8 power. The decision to burn millions of dollars over-engineering a basic pushrod V6 was a massive insurance policy. Ford spent the money to ensure that if the federal government banned the V8, they would already possess a fully developed, emissions-compliant, supercharged V6 architecture capable of delivering identical performance in a rear-wheel drive platform. The expected regulatory hammer never fell. The federal government relaxed the looming CAFE targets, fuel prices remained low throughout the decade, and the traditional V8 survived to power a generation of Mustangs and trucks. The massive insurance policy was never cashed. Ford was left with an incredibly expensive, overbuilt sports coupe that was created to survive an environmental crisis that never actually occurred. The supercharged Thunderbird was the expensive ghost of an alternate regulatory reality. Don't forget to subscribe to not miss anything cars and business.